Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good day. A bit to Madam Nabilah, our lecturer for this semester's Foundational Linguistics subject. My name is Nur Samiha binti Mahmud, metric number 214246, and I will be the first speaker of my group's video presentation. Theme: Language and the Brain. Neurolinguistics is the study of how language connects with the brain to control the comprehension, production, and acquisition of language. This study was developed in the 19th century with the purpose to know the location of language ability in the brain. According to George Yule, in his 7th edition of the Study of Language, there are specific parts of the brain that are related to core language functions. Areas, particularly around the left area, are the most important parts. There's the Broca's area, Wernicke's area, the motor cortex, and arcuate fasciculus. These areas are all located in the left hemisphere of our brain. They are responsible for different functions of how we use language, generating spoken language, understanding spoken language, and the physical production of speech. With this in mind, through examination and autopsies, we can relate certain language disabilities back to specific damages or traumas in the so-called language areas of the brain. My concept for this video is Wernicke's aphasia. First off, what is aphasia? According to WebMD, aphasia means disorder that affects the way one speaks, writes, and understands written and spoken words. Karl Wernicke, a German doctor in the 1870s, thought damage to the left temporal posterior lobe of the brain located near the left temple caused aphasia. There are different types of aphasia, yet all of them come from the same source, which is damage to the brain. In this particular context, Wernicke's aphasia refers to damage done to the Wernicke's area, often due to a stroke. So what is the relationship between the concept and the theme? Well, Wernicke's aphasia is considered as a type of language disorder that results in difficulties in auditory comprehension. An individual with this disorder can actually produce very fluent speech, however, with a caveat that it is often difficult to understand to others. Sometimes the individual is unaware of the errors in their speech, making it frustrating for the individual and the people surrounding him or her. Examples of such errors from WebMD is mixing up related words, such as calling a chair a table, or suffering from anomia or difficulty in finding the correct word. The individual might refer to a cup as its description, which is the thing that holds water you use to drink with. A real-world example of this concept would be seen in a study from the University School of Medicine and Nashville Veterans Administration Medical Center in Nashville, Tennessee, United States of America, where they studied 3 cases of individuals suffering from Wernicke's aphasia: a 55-year-old former school principal, a 60-year-old right-handed male, and a 61-year-old right-handed male. All 3 of these cases displayed a language impairment similar to the characteristics of Wernicke's aphasia, showcasing fluent speech with unintended utterances or paraphasia at times, alongside the occurrence of other symptoms such as impaired naming and imperfect reading ability. In one case, the patient's auditory comprehension was so deficient he required repetitions to one-step commands such as count to 8 or shake your hands, and completely missed 2-step commands such as count to 8 then shake your hands, and even 3-step up commands, which is count to 8, shake your hands, and then stand up.
Assalamualaikum, I'm Fazrini, and now we are going to discuss about tongue slips. Tongue slips is a mistake in speaking. It occurs when someone trying to say something but accidentally say another thing instead. It is also known as slips of the tongue. Actually, there are many types of speech errors, and some of them are Spoonerism, which is a slip of tongue in which two parts of words or two words are switched. Perseveration, which is the sound of the first word brought over to the next word. For example, brown brag instead of brown bag. Anticipation, which is a later sound replaces the earlier sound. For example, fairy tale instead of fairy tale. Exchange, which is initial sounds change places or final sounds change places. So, to relate between tongue slips with language and the brain, Yule believes that when brain and tongue do not work together in accordance, slips of tongue occurs. The speech errors actually tell us how our mind handles language, as in neurolinguistics, we study about the location of language ability in the brain. So, slips of the tongue is actually related to the complicated mental processing which is happening unconsciously, so we are not aware of doing anything or when producing speech errors. In addition, George Yule also stated in his 7th edition of the Study of Language, although most of the slips of tongue are known as mistakes of articulation, they may actually result from slips of brain as it tries to organize and generate linguistic messages. One of the phenomenon is slips of tongue of news anchor. Most of the news anchor must have been experienced with the slip of tongue, especially when they are on air. And well, it is something normal for everyone. So now let's check out this video first.
Questions. Tony Blair back with some bleary-eyed nose.
So, based on the video, the news anchor said turning black blurry eyes instead of turning back blurry eyes. It is under the anticipation type of tongue slips, which is a later sound replaces the earlier sound. The sound b and l in the word blurry was brought to the word back, and it produces as black. The news anchor might be anticipating the word blurry in his mind and did not realize that it affects the word back. It is considered as speech error maybe because the method of anticipation of the next word in a sentence which made the word before does not pronounce correctly. So that is all about tongue slips. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nurul Aini binti Asmuni, and now I'm going to talk about bilingualism. Bilingualism is the ability to use two or more quite distinct and different languages. In this form of bilingualism, a member of minority group grows up in one linguistic community, mainly speaking one language, but learns another language in order to take part in the larger dominant linguistic community. Indeed, many members of linguistic minorities can live their entire life without ever seeing their native language in the public domain. For example, an official bilingual country, Canada, with both French and English as their main language. The relationship between language and the brain and bilingualism is the cortex in the left and right hemisphere of the brain is more connected if the person is a bilingual, according to the result of a study measuring gray matter volumes in monolingual and bilingual undergraduates. The comparison of brain activity in bilinguals and monolingual controls reveal that the person who is bilingual exhibit higher activity in the left hemisphere, with language-related brain areas. The real-world example for bilingualism is Mark Zuckerberg's ability to speak fluent Mandarin after married to a Chinese woman, Priscilla Chan. Mark Zuckerberg, born in the United States, which English is their main language, but during his visit at Beijing Tsinghua University, he had his audience shocked with his fluency in Mandarin language. Now let us watch the video of him speaking Mandarin during his visit in China.
田园长，大家好，我很高兴再次来到清华大学。
Mark Zuckerberg mentions that he started to learn Mandarin around 2011 and has been learning this language for several years now that he is fluent with this complex language. While bilingualism connects with someone who learn other language to blend in the dominant community, Mark said that he is learning Mandarin to connect with his wife, Priscilla Chan's family. Being a notoriously difficult language to pick up in adulthood, Mark said that by learning it every day, he knows that he can improve with his amazing effort. His fluency in Mandarin proved by the people who said that he speaks Mandarin better than some Americans speak their native English. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Going straight into the last concept is feral child. Feral child is defined by the Collins English Dictionary as a neglected child who engages in lawless or antisocial behavior, more specifically, children that are discovered by society to be living in the wild with the assumption that they were raised by animals. It is stated that such children are deprived of human associations and are too strongly conditioned with animal behaviors. As they lack the associations with humans, they are naturally deprived of learning or acquisitioning language, or language deprivation, which is associated with the lack of linguistic stimuli that are necessary for the language acquisition process in an individual. There are several known cases of feral children. The most well-known is Victor, the wild boy of Aveyron. Victor was a French feral child who was found at the age of around 9. Upon his discovery, he was captured multiple times, running away from civilization approximately 8 times. Eventually, at the age of 13, his case was taken up by a young physician, John Mark Gaspard Itard, who worked with the boy for 5 years and gave him his name, Victor. Dr. Itard was interested in determining what Victor could learn. He devised procedures to teach the boy words and recorded his progress. Dr. Itard conducted training over a period of 5 years. He wanted to civilize Victor with the objectives of teaching him to speak and to communicate human emotion. Victor showed significant early progress in understanding language and reading simple words, but failed to progress beyond a rudimentary level. This strengthened the thought that the naturalization process begins in early childhood. During childhood, there is the period when the human brain is most ready to receive input and learn a particular language. This is generally known as the critical period. If children do not acquire language during this period, then they will find it almost impossible to learn a language later on. This is what happened to Victor, as he was neglected by his parents at an early age and have to fend it for himself in the wild.